Since the beginning of civilization, we have been cultivating nature's garden to grow our food. Years of experimentation by early man has led to a few staple crops which have dominated the global menu. For centuries, the world's oldest civilizations have continued to grow wheat, rice and maize from traditional grain stocks. Farmers used farming methods handed down through the generations. Whole cultures depend on the seasonal reaping and sowing of the crops that provide food and economic power for millions of people. In recent years, news stories about crop failures and famine in underdeveloped nations have frequently hit the headlines. In the 1960s, Western scientists who were looking at the old farming techniques decided it was time for a revolution. A green revolution to bring food to the masses. There was nothing wrong with the land or the climate in these nations. These people only needed the benefits of science and technology. The Western way was to use artificial breeding to improve crop plants. With biotechnology and genetics, farming could be transformed into a multi-million-pound industry. By transferring favourable characteristics from one plant species to another, scientists could design high-yield crops which would be suitable for every climate in the world. The final seeds they produced were ready to be promoted as the new solution to famine in the developing countries. These seeds were selected, sorted, treated and packaged, ready for delivery across the world where they were quickly planted. The locals were encouraged to attend talks and demonstrations given by scientists. The scientists used test strips of land to explain the advantages of particular varieties of seeds and to encourage people to buy them. To increase production even more, the scientists demonstrated how to use combine harvesters. The scientists did this in countries whose greatest assets were the many willing hands that needed harvest work to survive. The new crops were planted almost everywhere, and at first were very successful and had high yields. They even provided extra jobs for labourers in some areas where growth was especially good. But there was a cost. The farmers with the most land had the most money, and they were the ones who invested in combine harvesters and other machinery. The labourers who were depending on farm work for income and food quickly became unemployed. Times were changing rapidly, with only farmers on the best land getting the benefits. Other problems quickly appeared. The new varieties of seeds only produced high yields if farmers used artificial fertilizer on the land. Unfortunately, the crop yield promised by the scientists could never be achieved because the poorer farmers couldn't even afford half of the recommended fertilizer they needed. Genetically engineered plants generally suffer from pests and diseases. This means that large amounts of chemical insecticide, fungicide and herbicide have to be used in order for the crops to be a success. Without chemicals, the new supercrops are very weak. Scientists have to introduce new species with new resistances to pests and disease every few years, or the crops will fail completely. The farmers who can't afford to buy new seed and chemicals every year end up in debt. The only winners here are big manufacturing companies that profit from sales of seed and chemicals. The Green Revolution can produce more food for somebody somewhere, but many of these poorer farmers that the Green Revolution was supposed to help have lost both their land and their income from the land.